I'm here today with a homeowner and investor who's about to add a legal second suite to her brand new townhouse. So today we're going to go over what you need to know if you want to convert your brand new home to contain a legal second suite. So stick around. Welcome back. I'm Andy from Suite Additions, where we help homeowners and investors create better homes while generating lasting wealth with legal additional suites. Download our free guides at www.suiteadditions.com to get started. And please do us a huge favor by giving us a thumbs up on this video and subscribing to this channel so that we can get more content out. Okay, so today we're going to focus our attention on new homes and explain the differences when it comes to adding a second suite compared with older homes. What we're going to discuss applies specifically to Ontario, but may be similar in other parts of Canada as well. Any home that is under 5 years is considered new and is subject to the standard Part 9 of the Ontario Building Code. Work that's being done to homes that are older than 5 years is considered a renovation in many cases and is subject to less stringent part of the building code, which is Part 11. Most of the homes that we work with are older than 5 years, so it's generally easier. But we'd like to show you the rules for new houses as well, because you might be in that situation. And also there are some advantages to adding a legal second suite to a new house. Firstly, you generally have higher ceilings, so even if the floor space is smaller, the overall space feels bigger. Secondly, it's typically already insulated, so you only have to frame a new wall around it. Thirdly, there's often plumbing already in place for bathrooms. And finally, it's going to be in better condition overall because obviously it's newer. Now, from the building code standpoint, we're going to go over 5 items that you need to consider when you're putting a second suite in the basement. These include number 1, ceiling height. Number 2, natural lighting requirements. Number 3, entrances to the unit. Number 4, fire separation between the units. And finally, number 5, fire safety for heating systems. So let's go inside, check these things out, and we're going to go over a bunch of other stuff as well. Hey, Daria.
Hi, Andy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah. Congrats on your new house.
Thank you. We just got it 2 weeks ago, and we're excited to start the project.
Amazing. Yeah, this is a nice place. Nice areas as well.
Yeah, nice areas, quiet, and we have pretty square footage is quite enough.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's see what we can see.
Yeah, it's actually pretty big here. It's very wide. Yeah, doesn't look like it from the outside, but it's a very wide house.
Yeah, we were lucky to get end units, so now we can create some basement units.
Okay, well, let's have a look at the basement and see what we can do.
Perfect.
All right. So I guess the first thing is entrance. You know what? In terms of entrance, I think it makes sense for us to create an entrance on the side there coming in from the outside. Okay. So one issue with a lot of new houses is that you don't have a dedicated entrance with new houses, right? In many cases, sometimes it's on the interior. So as long as we're able to create a doorway on the outside wall, that's good for actually having that dedicated entrance, right? Because the good thing about this townhouse is that it's an end unit townhouse. Mm-hmm. So it's called a street townhouse. Oh, okay. It's technically.
I never heard of it.
Yeah. Now the interior townhouses, you can still do a second suite, but in those cases, what you have to do is you have to share the front entrance.
Oh, I see.
Right? And then that becomes kind of like an area where, people are going to be putting their shoes and coats and things like that. So it's not ideal. So if it's an end unit townhouse, a street townhouse, it's kind of like a semi. So you can have an entrance on the side or on the back. So,
so you have some options here.
Yeah, we do have some options. So typically with new houses, that's what we do. We actually end up having to create a side entrance into the unit.
Got it.
All right. Okay, so let's walk around and have a look. Any questions you have, just feel free to...
Yeah, just like, because since it's a new unit, what do you think the biggest items the homeowners should look at when creating basement units? Because I have some experience with the older bungalows, but none experience with the new units. Yeah,
so, the majority of the work that we do are for second suites, basement suites, which are for older houses, right? And so the building code, as long as the home is under 5 years, it's considered new. And then it's subject to all the standard building code items. Whereas if it's older than 5 years, it's considered a renovation. So the rules are a little less stringent. So we're going to go over a few things that are specific to new houses that you need to be aware of. Because I know that you've done the older, like the bungalows, right?
Yeah, I feel comfortable, but not with this one.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't we go over those things? The first thing I'm looking at is that window there, right? So typical with a lot of new houses, you got the smaller windows, because the intention for the builders is that, people aren't going to turn these into suites. Maybe in a few years, people will finish them and turn it into like a rec room or a family room, something like that. Yeah. And then, people aren't going to actually be sleeping in here. So that's their intention anyways, right?
Yes,
But
yes.
our intention, of course, is to put in a legal suite, right? So
Yes.
we have to enlarge the windows down here for two reasons. One is obviously for emergency escape, right? Egress
Yes.
window. Now, the other thing is that because it is a new house, the natural light requirements are higher, okay? So for living rooms, dining rooms, the requirement, if it's an older house, is 5% of the floor space. In our case, it has to be 10%.
It's a double.
It's double.
Yeah.
And also, kitchens require natural lighting as well in new houses, whereas in a renovation, on a second suite on an older house, the kitchen does not require natural
that's
lighting. So
interesting.
yeah, so we have to do quite a bit. So probably what we're gonna do is we're probably gonna have to enlarge this window and then add a window somewhere else, right?
Yes, to
Maybe
meet,
on this
10%.
exterior
And
wall here.
10%, how do they calculate the 10%? Just
The glass.
The glass.
So
the actual-
basically,
yeah.
assuming your floor space is 200 square feet, you then need 10%, which means 20 square feet, right?
yeah.
I don't think you're going to be 200 square feet.
Yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit less.
yeah.
So we're still good in terms of regulations by the size of the room.
I think so,
Still-
yeah. So this basement, I mean, it's probably going to be either a one bedroom or a studio. So I think we'll be okay in terms of being able to bring in
Got it.
additional natural light, right? The egress requirements remain the same, though. We still need to have that window at least 4 square feet in order for somebody to escape in case there's an
yes.
emergency,
Yeah.
right?
Ceiling, that's the biggest one for me. That's
Yeah. So ceiling height is the other thing that we have to be mindful of for new houses. So with an old house, we have 6 feet 5 inches is the minimum, right? And that's finished floor to finished ceiling. For a new house, it's 6 feet 11. Okay. So we measured this earlier. You do have actually 7 feet 9 inches here, so you're
Yeah,
good.
so we-
And even under here, under the beams
Yeah.
and ducts, you're at around 7 feet. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so even with your drywall, your fire rated drywall, you're going to be okay.
Still good.
It's just that you're probably going to have to butt this right up against it, pretty
Yeah,
pretty
just
tight,
to be
so
able
that
just to
yeah,
focus
you
the
probably
travel.
can't frame around here. Okay, so we have the beam there, we have the duct work. We measured that earlier as well. So yeah, we got the height.
right.
We talked about the windows. So some other things. Did you have anything that
yes,
you?
I had the electrical panel.
Right.
So because in the past we did separate electrical panels for
Yeah.
upstairs and downstairs units. So the question is, am I required to have a separate electrical panel for each unit?
You're not required to have it separate. You are required to have enough capacity, right? So
it.
I know the service size coming in is 100 amps. So your electrician has to do the calculations to make sure that everything upstairs and downstairs meets the electrical consumption,
Got
right?
it.
So you don't necessarily have to have them separate. Now, if let's say you're not able to meet, then it's a possibility that you might have to convert some of your appliances to gas in
Yeah.
order to
Yeah.
conserve that electrical consumption, right? So
Got it.
we've had people convert their stoves and their dryers all to gas and still be able to maintain like a 100 amp service.
Got it. That's
right?
good news.
So your electrician
Yeah.
has to do that calculation.
Perfect.
So some other things I want to talk about in terms of the difference between a new house and an old house is that on a new house, you have to ensure that you have a 1 hour fire separation between the upper unit and the lower unit.
So it's
okay?
again high requirements, right?
Yeah, there's more.
Got it.
There's more fire rated drywall. So typically on the old houses, we'll have our safe and sound fire insulation. We have our metal resilient channels, and then we have one layer of fire rated drywall.
Yeah.
Whereas and that gives us 30 to 45 minutes fire separation. Whereas in a new house, we need to have 1 hour, which means we're going to have to double that to 2 layers of 5/8 drywall.
Got
okay.
it.
So we still have everything else that's the same. You have
Yes.
the
Insulation,
insulation,
yeah.
resilient channel, and then 2 layers.
2 layers.
Okay.
Got
So
it.
that's one difference as well. Okay. One other thing is that with the forced air furnaces, of course, we're always concerned about potential for fire and smoke to spread from one unit to the
Yeah,
other.
Upstairs.
Now, in an older house, you're allowed to leave everything as is and just put in an in-duct smoke detector.
So it shuts down, right?
Yeah,
In
so
case of
that
fire?
exactly, so
Yeah.
that it turns the gas supply and the blower fan off if there's ever any smoke or fire in the duct system. Now, we still have to do that. We still have to install the in-duct smoke detector, but that's not enough on a new house. What we also have to do is we also have to put in a fire dampers in the actual registers and the grills.
Got
so
it.
that what happens is that if there's ever a fire, that's going to close off, and so it wouldn't spread the fire.
Got it.
Okay, so that is
each-
required on a new
each-
house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
got it.
if you're going to be doing 2 separate units.
Yes, we are doing.
Yeah. All right. So so there's a few more things that I want to discuss that aren't necessarily rules-based or code-based, but it's things that we need to be aware of when you are doing a conversion of a new house to contain a legal second suite. Okay. So the first thing is a lot of builders, they're not necessarily too keen on the idea of people closing things out right away.
Yes.
One reason is because if there may be any cracks or any things that develop over the next few years, you're not going to be able to see them with everything's covered up. Okay, so you are assuming some risk there. Okay,
Yes.
so obviously you want to inspect everything, make sure everything's okay. There are going to be some cracks, usually hairline cracks. That's very common in terms of concrete when it starts drying. You see some shrinkage cracks. But other than that, if you don't see any major cracks, usually it's not a concern. The other thing that you need to be aware of is that it's probably going to void part of your Tarion warranty. Okay,
Got it.
so the new home warranty, some of the 1 year, 2 year, and the structural might be voided. So you kind of have to assume that risk. So you have to kind of weigh the risk versus the benefits to see if it's something that makes sense for you.
Yeah. Would you
Right.
recommend to wait like one winter, let's say, for the foundation concrete to settle?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like if you can have some time to wait, to
while in the process of getting permits, so
yeah. I mean, it's going to
Yeah.
take a while to get permits
Yes.
anyways, right? So you can wait to see if any sort of other cracks develop, to see if there might be any water issues,
Got it.
things like that. Something to be aware of, right?
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a major one for the Tarion.
Yeah. The other thing also is that, with new houses, with the concrete drying, they call it curing, right? So the concrete, there's moisture that comes out. So if you finish the walls, sometimes there's concerns about moisture getting inside the walls. And, some homeowners are able to mitigate that with dehumidifiers, right? So they may,
Yes.
after they put in the drywall, they may have some areas that are open, and then they have dehumidifiers running
Got it.
to try to minimize some of that moisture getting into the walls, okay? Because there is moisture in the concrete that's constantly coming out over time, okay?
Got it.
Even, concrete that's been decades old, there's potentially water moisture coming out, okay? As you can see, there's existing insulation. So this is kind of good with a lot of new houses, right? You have existing insulation that's already there. All you need to do is frame it out, but obviously, you're going to lose more space. It's always ideal to have the frame stud wall closer to the foundation, and then having that insulated so you don't lose that much wall, especially since it's not a huge space.
Yes, to save the space.
Yeah, so it's up to you if you want to keep this or if you want to redo this.
Got it.
Right, but you still need to have R20 insulation.
That's a minimum, right?
Yep. Okay. Did you have any other questions?
I think we're good.
Yeah?
We explained all the major facts to look at, and we're ready
Yeah.
to start.
I'm sure you're going to have more questions as we go, but this is a good
it's
space.
Exciting,
And
yeah, it's exciting projects. Always good to learn something new. So thank you.
yeah, we're always learning.
Yes.
Thanks very much,
Thank you
Daria.
very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay, so we hope you found the tour of this brand new basement and our discussion around adding a second suite to be useful. Any home under 5 years is considered to be new, and the rules are more stringent under the standard part of the building code. In summary, you need to ensure that you have a minimum ceiling height of 6 feet 11 inches. You need to have greater natural lighting requirements. Depending on the layout, you may need to create a new entrance to the unit, and you will need greater fire separation between the units. And if you're using a forced air furnace, you would have to have fire shutters installed in the heating supply and return registers. Are you planning to do a conversion on a new house at any point? Have you completed one in the past? If so, please share your plans and experiences in the comments below, and feel free to leave questions and comments below, and we'll be sure to respond. And if you haven't done so already, please click that like button and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. It really helps us get more content out. In the meantime, keep creating better homes and generating lasting wealth for yourself with legal additional suites. Until next time, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching our video. We have a brand new garden suite guide, how to add one to your property. You can download a copy right now for free if you go to www.suiteadditions.com. We cover a ton of stuff you need to know if you want to start building these to create more housing and wealth at the same time. There's also a list of resources that we've identified that you can use. Download your copy now for free at www.suiteadditions.com.